everyone. Today we will be discussing about the great primatologist Jane Goodall. The objective for today's study will be understanding the life of Jane Goodall in a nutshell. Then we will understand the concept of revolutionizing primatology and understanding the conservation of primates. And then we will analyze in a depth about Jane Goodall Institute's the famous triangle approach. Now coming to Jane Goodall's life in a nutshell. Dr. Jane Goodall, the founder of Jane Goodall Institute and the UN Messenger of Peace, is a world-renowned ethologist and activist inspiring greater understanding and action on behalf of the natural world. Through her tireless advocacy to create a better future for people, animals and planet we share, Dr. Goodall has inspired millions around the world with her message of hope through action. She is best known for her groundbreaking studies with wild chimpanzees in the Gombe Stream National Park of Tanzania, where a transformative research continued by Dr. Goodall Institute, which is now as known as the longest running wild chimpanzee study in the world. Valerie Jane Morris-Goodall was born on April 3, 1934 in London in England to Mortimer Herbert Morris-Goodall and Margaret Mayfin Joseph, affectionately known as Vanny. From earliest childhood, Jane's mother has always encouraged her fascination with animals. While Jane was just over a year old, her father gave her a stuffed toy, a lifelike replica of a chimpanzee which was named Jubilee, after the first chimpanzee infant that was born at the London Zoo. The toy horrified some of her mother's friends who thought that it would give Jane nightmare. They could not foresee the favorable influence it would have on her in the later part of life. In what her mother referred to as Jane's first animal research program, she found Jane in bed with a handful of earthworm trying to understand how could they possibly move without legs. By the age of 4, having moved to a family farm, she gave her mother yet another scare by hiding in hen house for hours waiting to watch chicken to lay eggs. Goodall's fascination with Africa was aroused by reading the story of Dr. Dolittle by Hugh Lofting. Lofting depicts Dolittle as a kindly doctor who travels to Africa and talks to animals. Jane also read all the books of Tarzan. Her mother encouraged her dreams of studying animals in Africa, assuring her that she could do it if she worked hard and believed in herself. At a young age of only 23, after having spent the past few years as a waitress and a secretary, she finally found a way to make her dream a reality. And then comes the moment which changed Dr. Goodall's life for good, that is, meeting with Dr. Louis Leakey. In 1957, Goodall visited her friend's family on a farm outside Nairobi and subsequently found a job as a secretary in the city. Her interest in animal led her contact to the paleoanthropologist Louis Leakey, a famous seeker of hominine bones who was then working in Africa. He promptly hired her as a secretary. Leakey was always looking for someone to study chimpanzees in wild, and after he got to know Goodall, he felt that she would be perfect. Leakey believed that a woman would be more patient than a man in field study and also will be less likely to kindle any aggression on the male chimps. She returned to London to study the primates in London Zoo, while he raised funds to support her field study and to arrange equipments for her. In 1960, when she was only 26, Goodall eagerly travelled 600 miles southwest of Nairobi to live at the Gombe Stream Chimpanzee Preserve beside Lake Tanganyika. There, about 150 chimpanzees made their home in a 20 to 30 square mile area. It took her months to accustom to the chimps her presence, but after nearly a year, most of them would allow her to approach closer than 100 yards. She took an unorthodox approach, immersing herself in the chimpanzee's habitat. After months of trying to gain their trust, she was able to experience their complex society as a neighbor rather than a distant observer. She then further defied scientific convention by giving them names instead of numbers. She came to understand them not only as a species but also as individuals with personalities, complex minds, emotions, and long-term bondings. One day in October in the year 1960, she saw a chimpanzee named David Greybeard use grass stems to fashion tools for fishing termites in their nest. Up until that revelatory moment, mainstream scientists always thought humans were the only species that could make and use tools, having defined us as the man, the toolmaker. Her insights rocked the scientific community, prompting Dr. Leakey to proclaim that now we must redefine man, redefine tool, or accept chimpanzees as humans. Her published findings on the tool-making practice of chimpanzees remains one of the most highly regarded observations in the world of animal behavior research. During her first years at Gombe, she also observed several other behavioral traits that transformed our understanding of chimpanzees. They include that chimpanzees can be compassionate and altruistic. They will hunt and eat meat, though it is less than 3% of their diet. They can engage in primitive warfare and they can form long-lasting bonds with all members of family. In the year 1961, Jane entered Cambridge University as a PhD candidate, being the only 8th person to be admitted without an undergraduate degree. She repeatedly returned to Gombe to continue her observation throughout her time at Cambridge before earning her PhD in ethology or animal behavior in the year 1966 and continued her research in Gombe. Now coming to the concept of revolutionizing primatology and their conservation. Dr. Goodall's field research in Gombe revolutionized this field of primatology. In one of the longest-running field studies of any species, she and her students further documented that chimpanzees have distinct personalities, minds, emotions, and can form long and lasting relationships. Over the years, her work continued to yield surprising insights. In the year 1965, she established Gombe Stream Research Center, which became a training ground for students interested in studying primatology, ecology, and more. Today, it holds a skill of team researchers around the world and dedicated field assistants comprising entirely from the local Tanzanians. The research center at Gombe also attracted many women who were nearly absent from the field when Jane started to work. Jane Goodall's trailblazing path for other women primatologists is arguably her greatest legacy, says Gilbert Grosvenor, the chairman of National Geographic Society. During the last third of 20th century, eminent primatologists like Diane Fossey, Cheryl Knott, Penny Patterson, and many other women have followed Dr. Goodall's footsteps. Indeed, women now dominate the long-term primate behavioral studies worldwide. On her way to becoming the world's leading ethologist and activist, Dr. Goodall had a son with her first husband, the Dutch nobleman wildlife photographer Baron Hugo van Lawick. In 1975, she married Derek Bursison, the director of Tanzania's national park, who died in the year 1980. Perhaps most significantly, Dr. Goodall's work engaged a global audience, providing a window into the world of chimpanzees to the public with a deep curiosity about humankind's closest relatives. Through her books, particularly the book named In the Shadow of Man and the book named Through a Window, people around the world came to know on a first-name basis about the chimpanzees of Gombe. The legendary Flu and her many offsprings became so internationally revered that when Flu died, the London Times published an obituary. Dr. Goodall's eloquent ability to raise public awareness and understanding would become instrumental in her work to save chimpanzees and other species from extinction. In 1977, Dr. Goodall established the very famous JGI or Jane Goodall Institute, which advances her vision and works around the world for generations to come. The JGI Institute continues and expands upon essential science at Gombe Stream Research Center and is now the longest running wild chimpanzee study in the world. The institute advances innovative applications of science and technology, best practices in animal welfare, as well as youth empowerment through their Roots and Shoots program, which was created in 1991. Roots and Shoots provides the resources to encourage and motivate young people to take action on issues that matters to them the most. Today, the tools and support offered through JGI program empower youth in all 50 states and over 60 countries to use their voices and ideas to address issues that matters to most in their communities. In the late 1980s, upon attending the first ever Chimpanzee in Context Symposium, Dr. Goodall witnessed to the accelerated pace of deforestation, declining chimpanzee population beyond Gombe, and realized that she has to leave her beloved Gombe to save the chimpanzees across the world from extinction. She continued this work through her visits through sanctuaries, research sites in places like Uganda, and also the JGI's Spain site in Senegal, and even fought to the end use of chimpanzees in drug testing and medical research. Recently, JGI introduced Virtual Jane, allowing Dr. Goodall to successfully connect with the audiences through remote lecture recordings and also her podcast known as Jane Goodall Hopecast. Dr. Goodall emphasizes on the interconnectedness of all living things and the collective power of individual action, urging her audience to recognize their personal responsibility and ability to affect any kind of change. As Jane says, every individual has a role to play and every individual can make a difference. Now, before we further move, there is a small question. Dr. Jane Goodall is associated with which field of science? Option A, primatology. Option B, physiology. Option C, anthropology. Option D, engineering. And the right answer is option A, primatology. Now let's talk about the various recognitions that Dr. Goodall has received. Jane is recognized as a global icon and is the recipient of numerous honors, including the Medal of Tanzania, the National Geographic Society's Hubbard Medal, Japan's prestigious Kaijo Prize, the Prince of Asturias Award for Technical and Scientific Research, the Benjamin Franklin Medal Award in Life Science, the Mendel Medal, the UNESCO 60th Anniversary Medal, the Gandhi King Award for Nonviolence, and also the Manhe Grand Prize for Practice. Most recently, she was awarded the esteemed Templeton Prize as well as the Tang Prize. In April 2002, Secretary General Kofi Annan named Dr. Goodall as an United Nations Messenger of Peace. In 2004, in a ceremony at Buckingham Palace, Prince Charles invested Dr. Goodall as a Dame of the British Empire. In 2006, Prime Minister Dominique de Villepin presented Dr. Goodall with France's highest recognition, the Legion of Honor. She has received honorary doctorates from 57 universities, including Universities of St. Andrews at Cambridge, Goldsmiths, University of London, Utrecht University, Holland, Ludwig Maximilians University, Germany, Stirling University, Scotland, Providence University, Taiwan, and many more. Dr. Goodall's life and work are the subject of numerous television documentaries as well as a 2002 film named Jane Goodall's Wild Chimpanzees. The documentary Jane's Journey was formed on the year 2010, and on the year 2017 National Geographic's documentary named Jane, and most recently in 2021 the documentary named Jane Goodall The Hope all has been aired. Discovery Channel's Animal Planet has produced a great number of features on Dr. Goodall's, including Jane Goodall's Return to Gombe, Jane Goodall's State of the Great Ape, When Animals Talk, Jane Goodall's Heroes as some of the shows. Now let's focus a bit on environmental crimes. Environmental crime is one of the most prominent and pressing illegal activities across the world. The trafficking of great apes, includes chimpanzee, is currently a multi-billion-dollar industry and is spread worldwide. It is one of the three major threats that chimpanzee population today, in addition to deforestation and diseases, face. Wild chimpanzees are only found in Central and West Africa, where they inhabit in the tropical rainforest region. Chimpanzees have an average lifespan of 40 years, while some can live up to 60 years or more. Their population have dwindled to less than 300,000 individuals, classifying them as an endangered species at the risk of extinction within the next 100 years. Adult chimpanzees are poached mainly for their bushmeat, while the infants are stolen and sold illegally for pets and other entertainment purposes. This fueled in part with the food insecurity in countries across Africa, specifically in Republic of Congo, where lack of protein sources such as cattle lead citizens to turn into other sources of protein to supplement their diet, such as bushmeat. Another driver of trade is the international demand for chimpanzees as pets or for entertainers, which contributes to the global syndicate system, with local communities usually getting involved in this illegal poaching for monetary gain. This kind of trade have negative impact not only on the life of these primates but on the overall biodiversity. Chimpanzees fulfill specialized role as seed dispersers, as they disperse seed that are often too large for organisms to swallow. Changes in chimpanzee population as a result of trafficking can negatively impact the food web. Deforestation, along with loss of great ape habitat, is another major threat to chimpanzee population because it puts humans and great apes in close proximity to each other, which can be another root cause for wildlife trafficking. It is predicted that less than 10% of great ape habitat will remain in the world by the end of year 2030. This causes fragmentation of chimpanzee population, creating another barrier that makes it difficult for them to breed. When coupled with slow reproduction rate, this can be proved challenging for chimpanzees to sustain their dwindling population, as it takes an average of 15 years for an individual to be replaced as a breeding member of the chimpanzee group. Furthermore, the close proximity of humans and great apes makes disease transmission also more likely. Population of chimpanzees and gorillas that live in close proximity to humans have been found to have gastrointestinal E. coli and other bacteria that are resistant to antibiotics that can treat the bacteria in human, but in cases some kind of parasites these great apes contaminate, they become unable to recover. Diseases and bacteria can make great ape more susceptible to other kind of infection as well as environmental and social stressors. Now come to the approach and various recommendations for the conservation efforts. The United Nations Environment Programme, or UNEP, along with United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization UNESCO, recommended focusing on conservation efforts on organized trafficking, law enforcement and consumer demand. The International Union for Conservation of Nature recommends intervention policy created in anticipation of these events that could actually help greatly in great ape production. The purpose of the intervention policy is to have strategies that can be utilized when needed as an opposition to recreationary approach created after harm that has already occurred. Additionally, there are numerous conservation organizations that are working to eliminate the drivers of wildlife trafficking industry while advocating for chimpanzees and other great apes. One such organization is the Jane Goodall Institute, which was founded by Dr. Goodall in 1977. To address the process of illegal trafficking, JGI created the Shimponga Chimpanzee Rehabilitation Center, or TCRC, in Republic of Congo to create a safe haven for the chimpanzees that were subjected to wildlife trafficking. Since its creation in early 1990s, TCRC has fostered well over 200 chimpanzees and is the largest chimpanzee sanctuary across Africa. The three pillars or the very famous triangle approach of this particular TCRC, which are the sanctuaries, law enforcement and environmental education, have proved quite effectively in protecting the chimpanzee population. Now let's learn a bit about the famous triangle approach. The triangle approach was effectively created by taking small steps in order to create a holistic solution to a large and complex problem such as chimpanzee trafficking. Researchers have realized that a concrete strategy that includes sanctuary work, education, and law enforcement can positively lead to some long-lasting changes in terms of chimpanzee conservation. The integrative pillars include environment education and awareness, proper law enforcement, and building of sanctuaries. UN identifies the Republic of Congo as one of the main trafficking hotspots for the great apes, as it hosts an estimated population of 10,000 chimpanzees across their dense rainforest. Thus, JGI staffs choose to focus efforts on this region of Africa, where they notice a series of interrelated issues when concerning barriers with chimpanzee conservation. Infant chimpanzees are often subjected to pet trade while the adults are poached for bushmeat. The law enforcement did not prepare field to enforce the regulation regarding great ape trafficking for two main reasons. One is that the citizens were unaware of the illegal poaching of chimpanzees, while the other one is that there were no other safe place to keep the confiscated chimpanzees. Once citizens and locals were informed about this international law, the JGI collaborated with local NGOs to provide some safe homes to keep the poached chimpanzees. Providing youth with sound education has numerous benefits in long-term process, such as greater economic growth with improved livelihood can also lessen the effect of poverty when women were given access to proper education opportunity and subsequently work opportunities in these kind of sanctuaries. JGI has implemented several measures that to educate citizens on trafficking and also to promote remote environmental awareness through their very famous billboard campaign, also television programs and radio broadcasts. Before going further, a small quiz. What is the full form of TCRC? Option A, Shimpunga Crocodile Rehabilitation Center. Option B, Shimpunga Cat Rehabilitation Center. Option C, Shimpunga Camel Rehabilitation Center. And option D, Shimpunga Chimpanzee Rehabilitation Center. And the right answer is option D, Shimpunga Chimpanzee Rehabilitation Center. Now comes the famous billboard campaign. As an additional measure to environmental education, the Institute of JGI installed billboards across Uganda, Tanzania, and also in Republic of Congo with messages about conservation in both French and local languages. The purpose of this billboard was to contribute public knowledge on animal trafficking and educate readers of the consequence in engaging in illegal wildlife trafficking and encourage citizens to protect these animals at risk. Since the implementation of the triangle approach, the number of arrivals at the TCRC has gone from 8 to 10 chimpanzees a year to a close of 1 to 2 or sometimes 0 arrivals. Specifically, the Point Nord and Kolo regions in Republic of Congo that was previously accounted for 23% of great ape confiscation has drastically decreased to just one confiscation in the year 2020. Raising awareness for the importance of wildlife conservation has led to improved livelihood with a connection to the local communities that has been impacted the most by this trafficking. A survey in 2018 showed that in the Democratic Republic of Congo, over 200 women across 20 villages were selling bushmeats. In response to that data, JGI held workshops to empower these women through activities such as leadership training, networking, and finding alternate livelihood solutions to promote a sustainable livelihood. Now, around 65 households were able to implement sustainable livelihood in their own, such as brickmaking and butchery, allowing many others to reap greater economic benefits. Moreover, 178 women bushmeat sellers were reported having better understanding of wildlife trafficking laws after attending seminars that were hosted by this institute. Prior to this, additionally, it can be said that they marked a difference in the number of chimpanzee arrival to the sanctuaries after law enforcement began enforcing trafficking laws. It is important to note that corruption impacts these kind of values as prosecution and severity of punishments vary in degree. In Republic of Congo, specific benefits were noted when the law enforcement began enforcing law in the year around 2012. Most notably, the largest decrease in number of chimpanzees arrival in the sanctuary began after the year 2012. Moreover, once people began being prosecuted for illegal activities, it would make news headlines, acting as an additional information tool. In conclusion, we can say that Dame Jane Morris-Goodall, an English primatologist and anthropologist, is considered as world's foremost expert on chimpanzees. After 60 years of studying the social and family interactions of wild chimpanzees, Goodall's first work went to Gombe Stream National Park in Tanzania back in 1960s, where she witnessed human-like behavior amongst chimpanzees, including their conflict, their survivability, their connection, and building of interpersonal relationship. Goodall studied chimpanzees' social and family life beginning with the Kasakela chimpanzee community in Gombe Stream National Park in Tanzania. She found that it isn't only human beings who have personality and who are capable of rational thoughts and emotions. These findings suggest that similarity between humans and chimpanzees exists in more than genes alone and can be seen in emotion, intelligence, family, and social relationship. Thank you.